All right, here's a demonstration for computer applications for Excel Textbook Project 3. This is an example of what the finished file is going to look like. You can see here you're at several tabs. We're going to be doing some statistics about these calls. This is basically a list of phone calls. And this, of course, tells us what our formulas are going to be that we're using for this. So this final tab basically just shows you, and they'll tell you in the book exactly what to type in, but this is basically telling you what those are for, conversions and so forth. All right, so let's hop to it. I'm going to first remind you that this is a textbook project, so you need to download your starting files from the Excel 3 and 4, and then open up your textbook to Excel Module 3. So you should have at this point already completed the blue page review at the end of the chapter. That is the thing that's down here, and there was a video for this that walks you through that. So make sure you've done that and made some notes so that you know how to do some of these things, which will make this the rest of this go by quicker. So I'm going to go ahead and hop in here to EX31 is just a visual overview. I'm going to skip that. EX32. I'm going to move these to my other screen. There's quite a few things on here that are just information. So we're just going to kind of hop to the important stuff here as always. So I'm going to open up NPEX3-1, which is the beginning file for this. And let me get some things moved around here. And they're immediately going to have us to give this a new name. And so I'm going to go ahead and file save as. And I have a textbook folder, so I would suggest you do the same. In front of the underscore in your name, this one is going to be NP_EX_3_calls, and then the underscore in your name part, which you're going to leave in here. So we'll hit save, and yes. So that's going to hopefully sync everything up. All right, once we're in here, they're going to give us a series of instructions, and in the book, they're really kind of fancy about, instead of typing in the date, using a code for the date. So the first thing they're going to have us do is to put our name in cell B3 of the documentation sheet, and then to insert today's date. So the book likes to use the today function. It's equals today. And then the fun part of this is it's open and close parentheses, and there's nothing in the parentheses. When you hit enter, it will insert the current date. There is another function you can do that's similar to this called the now function. Now includes the time. It'll put a time indicator in there as well. All right, so that's the first thing there. They basically have you to rename it. They have you to insert your name in B3, the date in B4, and then to go to the call center log. That's it for the first page. Then they tell you to go to that formulas tab that I mentioned before and just to look at those formulas. There's a lot of pages that are just reading in here. Okay, the next thing they're going to have us to do is to go to H5. And we're going to do math to figure out how many seconds are between these phone calls. So in H5, they're going to have us to enter a formula. So that's going to start with the equal sign. We're going to take the second one here, what time the call was answered, and we're going to subtract it from what time the call was placed. And we can all see that's going to be 5 seconds. But when you hit enter, it's going to give us this weird looking thing, 12:05. That's because the format of this is not telling us in seconds. So we'll fix that in a moment. And then we're going to, in J5, do a similar thing. We're going to enter equals, and we're going to take when the call was finished and subtract that from when we actually answered the call. So that way we can tell how long the call took. So we'll hit enter here. And again, this is going to give us some weird answers. It's 20 minutes and 37 seconds, but it looks like it's 12:20. And again, that's just because of the format here. And we'll change that in a minute, but we're not changing it yet. All right, then they're going to have to go back to H5, and we are going to change to a formula. So again, the formulas are over here in this tab, but they tell you basically what to type in here. So we're going to modify the current formula. So I like to do that up here in the formula bar. We're going to take that G5 and F5 that we already have, and we're going to put it in parentheses. Because we're going to do multiplication, and if you don't put it in parentheses, if you know your whole PEMDAS thing in math, it would do the multiplication first, and that would mess this answer up. So we have to put that in parentheses, and then we're going to multiply it times 24 hours in a day, 60 minutes in an hour, times 60 seconds. in a minute. That's what that is. So that gives us our hold time in seconds, which is still going to look messed up. Yeah, so there you go. There's that. And then in J5, we're going to do a similar thing, only this time we're not going to break it down into seconds. So again, put it in parentheses and then multiply times 24 hours in a day times 60 minutes in an hour. Okay, so we're putting that in there because this one's going to be in minutes and not in seconds. Okay, now if I hit enter, we can take and change these formats. So I'm going to hold this, click on H5 and hold down Control and click on J5. And up here, instead of custom, I'm going to set this to general. And this is actually now going to give us seconds in this one and minutes in this other one. So that was kind of a lot to do something that was rather simple, but that's what we're going to do in that one. Okay, next we're going to use the fill handle. So we're going to click on H5 and we're going to grab the fill handle. That's what fills the formula. So this formula here will fill all the way down. We're going to go all the way down to H515. So it's kind of way down there. It'll just scroll as you go, but basically it's that entire table area that's shaded. All right, when you let go, look very carefully. It's going to turn everything orange, and that's because it's also filling the formatting. It always fills both the function or the math and the formats. So we've got to fix that. So you're going to use the autofill options button down here at the bottom, and you're going to fill without using the formatting. That's going to give us your little banded rows, as they call it. So we do that on this one, and we fix that autofill option. And then we're going to do the same thing in J. So we're going to grab a hold of this one, and then again, drag all the way down to 515. Once you get down there, it's going to make it all orange. Click on that button and fill without formatting. Okay, and that's that. So we've already completed quite a few pages, actually. The next one is we're going to fill a series. So we're going to come over here to the first case box. That's E5. And we're going to type in case 50127 and hit enter. And just like we've talked about before, where you could do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or January, February, March, if you type the first one and then use the fill handle. If you type something that has a number in it and use the fill handle, it should just make those go up incrementally by 1. So if I put day 1, it would put day 2, day 3, day 4. Sometimes if it doesn't work right away, you have to put the second one in the pattern and then select both of them and then use the fill handle. But in case of this one, we shouldn't have a problem. So I'm going to grab my fill handle, pull all the way down yet again, so that we have all of these cases numbered. You can see here the last one will be case 50637. Now again, it's going to fill with formatting, so we need to fill without formatting. That's pretty much standard every time when you have stuff like that. Now the online version of Office, if you're using the online version, which you can't for the textbook project, but if you were using it, you can't fill without formatting because there is no autofill options button. So yay. But in any of the SAM projects, if you do that, I don't think it will mark it wrong. So I think you'll be okay. All right. I am now on, if you're following around in the book, 3-5A, and we're talking about rounding. So I'm going to go back to J5. And basically what we're going to say is, this is a fine formula and all, but these numbers are obnoxious, and we need to give it an additional formula to round those numbers. They're going to have us use the round up function. And you can do this a couple of different ways. They like to go to the formulas tab and then use these little books, which is fine. The problem with that is the online version doesn't even have this tab. And then also, when you use these little books, and I'm going to use the insert function button because that's what the book says to use. When you use these little books, it's going to give you a bunch of little buttons or like blanks to fill in. And you're not going to get that in the online version either, but also you can do the same thing by just, I don't know, typing it. So I typed in round and hit go. And then I scrolled down and picked round up. That's the one they're going to have us to use. And notice underneath it, it tells you the format for this specific function. So round up, and then in parentheses, it says number, comma, and then the number of digits. So like, what number are we rounding up? Or in our case, we're going to put a formula in there, or this formula here. And then the number of digits, how many digits are we rounding to? We're going to round to 0. So Anyway, but you hit OK, and what it does is it gives us a box for all of this. Now, they told us to delete this out of here, and I didn't delete it, so it's still in here. And I did that because I'm actually going to go copy and paste it. So I'm going to hit cancel real quick. I'm going to grab a hold of this. Actually, I'm going to cut it, I guess I would say. So now it's gone. And then I'm going to hit the insert function button, but you can also hit the FX button right here. That's what I'll do this time. All right, there's round up. And then for the number, we're taking that formula that was up in there, but take off the equal sign, because when you use these buttons, they automatically put an equal sign in. So like there's already one in there. And then the number of digits we're rounding to is 0. Hit OK. And now we have 21. That's all good. So that should be correct. We're going to take that fill handle once again, all the way down. It's going to make it all orange, and we're going to use fill without formatting. We should be like pros at this, since we're going to do this so many times. Okay, all done. All right, so click back on here to deselect the range, and we're all good to go. The book talks about some additional rounding things. There's round, round down, round up, round. There's a whole bunch of different ones. So anyway, so I'm finishing this later in the day, and my nose is so much worse now than it was earlier. Anyways, all right, let's continue on. We're on EX 3-5B. We're talking about minimums and maximums, and this is not going to be anything new for you, but I do want to mention when you're using a formula, or rather a function, and we've talked about it before, when we type those in, it's equals and then a word. So like I'll use the round one, for example, and then open parentheses. And then notice that this will pop up. These are little like words and then comma and then more words. So for instance, I'm just going to type a number in here, round number 35.666. Okay, comma, to how many digits? Let's say no digits. Okay, see how that is telling you basically how to create the function? And then when I hit enter, it types in 36. Well, that's how those functions work. If you're using the online version of Excel, you will not have the boxes that pop up. Matter of fact, you won't have this button bar at all. But when you type in a function, you will see that stuff pop up underneath there. So just use that to keep you on par. Honestly, I never use the box that pops up. I always just type them in because the stuff is there. Okay, neither here nor there. Let's go over here to B5. Click B5 to select it. They're going to have us go to the Formulas tab in the Function Library group here, and we're going to go to More Functions. Again, we could have very easily just searched for this function. It wants us to go to Statistical, and then we're going to go all the way down to, and you can see there are a ton of functions, guys, Min. And you should already know by now, we could also have done that from the Auto Sum button. So anyway, now in the number 1 box that pops up, which again, all we're doing is typing in the parentheses, right? We're going to select the entire column F. Okay, so it's this here, this column here. And the min function is going to count, or look at those, and tell us the lowest number. What we're going to do to select an entire column is put the column letter, and then a colon, and the column letter again. And that's the same thing as clicking on the heading of the button. So see how it's F colon F. And I could have just typed it in the parentheses. You hit OK, and we get 0.333, which is correct, the minimum value there from that. And then we're going to switch our number format. So we're going to come here back to that Home tab where we do our number formats, which you're aware of. And we're going to choose time because this is in seconds. Well, this is first call of the day. We're looking at what time the call was, call placed. So the first call of the day was at 8 o'clock. All right. And then we're going to go through and do the same thing, only we're going to do the last call of the day. So that'd be the highest one. So we'll do a max. So in B6, it's max. So once again, we have to figure out which column that's going to be in. Well, it's the same column, right? Column F. So F colon F. And there we go. And then we're going to have to go back again and repeat the steps. Okay. Back up here, back to time. Okay. So they have you to repeat those steps doing max, and it'll do 5:59 for the final call of the day. All right, now we're going to B7. Call center was open, and they want us to know how long was the call center open. So we're looking at these two numbers. We're going to subtract them to find out how many hours. But that's going to give it to us in a weird format, so we have to multiply times 24. Again, that's in here. Multiply times 24 to get the days to an hour. But don't worry about it. They tell you what to type in. So you're going to go equals, and then in parentheses, we're going to take B6, the last call of the day, minus B5, the first call of the day. That's all in parentheses, times 24. And hit enter. And it's going to give us 9. We're going to switch 9 point whatever. We're going to switch this to number. So let's come up here and choose number. And then it should tell us 10 hours. Okay. Now we're going to B8. B8, we're going to do a count function. And we are going to count all of those cells in column F. So we know how many calls there were. Now count only counts like numbers. So it's going to ignore the heading at the top. Okay. So equals count open parentheses, put in the column F colon F, and close the parentheses. See how you see it selects it all? All right, we're going to hit enter. It should tell us 511 calls if you did it right. Now we're at B9, and we're going to calculate the number of calls per hour. So that's equals, and we're going to click on B8. That's how many calls we had, and then divide it by, and then how many hours we were open. And then hit enter. So that's equals B8 and then over B7, and that's 51 point whatever, 11 whatever. And we're going to switch it to number, so it'll round that up, 51.12. So that's what you should have for this one. All right, I'm going to click next page here. Now we're on EX 3-5C. They're going to talk about central tendency. So that's going to be those statistical things that you learn about in math, like average, mean, and mode. I can't say that with my nose. You know what the average is. The median is if you took all the numbers and you put them in order on a number line, the one that's in the middle. And then a mode is the value that's repeated the most often in a data series. Okay? So that's all that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to be doing a bunch of statistical analysis, if you will, on the average, median, common hold time, etc. So we got all these things to do. So again, they're going to have you go over to your formulas thing and your statistical. You can go over there if you want to. I'm just going to type these in. So first we're going to do average. So it's equals average, open close parentheses. And we are going to be looking, in this case, in the, these are hold times. So we're going to look at a different column. We're in column H now because it's hold times. Okay. So H colon H. And that's going to get us 27.4 whatever. And then we're going to continue this on. We're going to do median. And then H colon H. And the median hold time should be however many seconds. Let's see. B3. Say average, median, mode. So common is going to be the one that's repeated most often. So like how often were people on, 12 seconds was common or whatever. What's the most common one? So equals mode. There's different modes. They don't want you to use the plain mode one. So the one we're going to use is the mode single. It's mode.sngl. And you can see it on there. Just press tab to get it. And again, we're going to do the same thing. H colon H. 28 seconds is the most common hold time. Shortest, so we're going to do equals min in H colon H. Minimum is 1 second. Person got in there good. And then longest, that's max, equals max, H colon H, in 163 seconds. That was not too good. That's a little long. All right. As you can see, these are pretty easy. You're at the point that maybe you could even kind of fast forward me and do this part on your own. We're going to continue doing these. So there's another average, another median, common, shortest, longest. That's all going to be this time. We're looking at column J because this is the duration of the call. See, it's called duration, so we're looking in column J. So equals average, oops, J colon J, oops, J colon J. If I could type, would be good. Equals median, J colon J. Most common would be the single mode, so equals mode. Hit my down arrow till I'm on the single one and press tab to pick it. J colon J. Shortest, that's equals min, right? J colon J. Longest, that's max, equals max. J colon J. Okay. And then once we have all those, that's 1 through 5 on that page, then we'll have completed all of EX 3-5C. Okay. 3-5D. We're going to click on B24, total operator time. And on this one, we are going to create a round function with a sum function nested inside of it. Okay? So you're going to type equals round and then open parentheses. And this is where normally like we might put B4 or whatever. But in this case, we want to get all of the times and add them all together. So instead of putting a number there, we're going to put a function there. Now we don't put a second equal sign though. So sum, and then we're going to take all column J. So in parentheses J:(J). And it's like that's the number, right? So like when we're looking at those little things underneath here where it says number, that's the number. That sum function is the number we're looking at, okay? Comma. And then, well, actually, before this, we're going to have to convert that time into, from minutes to hours. So we're going to put divided by 60. So after we sum it, we're going to divide it by 60. And that's going to give us our number. All right, then we're going to type comma. And we're going to put a 0 because we want 0 decimal places on this. And then close your parentheses. And then hit enter. And we should get 138 hours. That should be the correct answer. Okay. And then cell B25, you're going to type the formula. Very similar to that. We're going to go equals round again. This time we're doing math. So we're not just pointing to a cell. It's B24 divided by B7. Comma. And see how it goes bold down there. And then 1. We're doing 1 decimal place on this one. Okay. Close your parentheses and hit enter. And you should get 13.8. And that's what we needed on that. So that's what we call a nested function. Okay, moving on, in the documentation sheet, they're going to have us go back to the documentation sheet. I had you do this already at the beginning, but this time they tell you to put in that today function. That's what puts in the current date. We already did that, so we're going to go ahead and skip to the next page. EX 3-6 is talking about error values. Error values are going to happen if you mess up and try to say something that doesn't make sense. Like if I type a word over here, I say hi, and then in this cell I say equals E3, then it's going to show E3 and E4. So it's going to say hi because it's looking at E3. But I can't be in E3 and look in E3 at the same time. Matter of fact, it tells me it's a circular reference. It won't even give me an error. So I can't even mess that up completely. So like if you were dividing by 0 is something you know mathematically you can't do. So that's going to create an error value. So we're going to go back to the call center log sheet. And in cell B7, they're going to have us to delete this formula so that it's blank. And when we do that, notice that now, because there's no math there, now we're dividing by 0. So that's not good, right? So if we click on B9, it tells us, there's a little thing that tells us there's an error, and it's a divide by 0 error, and we can figure that out. It basically gives you a tip about that. Now, we are going to undo that because we don't want to deal with that right now. But you can create what's called an if error function, which will do something else if there's an error instead of showing that error message. Okay, that gets us to the end of 3.1. And this probably seemed like a lot, but a lot of it was max and min and average and all of that stuff. So hopefully that wasn't too complicated. So let's save at this point, take a break, and then we'll pick up on 3.2.